Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April night 2010. Got a lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison, the crazy stuff that happened while I was in prison, and God forbid you end up in prison. I'll have to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, I like to paint a picture, let you know exactly what this place was like so you can get a mental image of it. But there's a distinct feature that you don't know about. Something at the medium security that I hadn't heard about this at any other compound from anybody else that I've spoken to, but there is something very unique about the medium, other than it's full of a bunch of weirdos and other stuff like that, is predatory birds and pigeons. Any given morning, there are 500 to 1,000 birds that circle the compound at Petersburg Medium. A lot of people fed the birds the 2 pieces of bread that they gave you off the tray and for breakfast in the morning. And a lot of the weirdos in particular would feed the pigeons. I got pooped on about 20 times, okay? I also saw birds get eaten alive, which I'll talk about here in a minute. Literally get eaten alive, plucked and eaten while they're still vicious stuff. Nature at its finest. Like, it was something like I'd never seen before. And there's some other wild stuff that happened. I mean, I didn't even know we had eagles in Virginia until I saw them flying overhead at Petersburg with the white head. But anyway, so 500 pigeons would circle. It's a circular shaped compound. There's 3 complexes, each that have 4 units, V-shaped, and it's like a circular walkway. There's some drone footage of Petersburg that you can find somewhere on YouTube. I've looked it up before. Tried to look up if anybody else has told any stories about the place. I think I'm the only person to ever do that, which, it's unique because it's a definitely weird place. But they would fly literally pretty much the circular walkway. They would fly in a circle. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds fly in a circle. And you're going to get pooped on. You're going to get pooped on a lot. I ain't told nobody about this, but I got pooped on one time. Right on my nose. I wiped it off before anybody could see. See, something like that happens, you're bound to get a nickname that's going to stick you don't want. But one morning in particular, see, if you take medication, you have to stand in what's known as pill line. And at the low security, it's not a big deal. If the quick guy's working, 10 minutes to get everybody done. If the slow guy's working, 30 minutes at the worst. At the medium, it's a different story. There are triple the people that go to pill line. There are easily over 100 people. And if the slow guy's working, you're going to have to stand up to an hour and a half to wait to get your medication. So standing in that line, a lot of conversations happen and stuff like that, and you witness things. Well, one morning we're out there, and you see these guys, and they're like, yeah, it's getting ready to happen. Look, there it is. And I look up. Keep in mind, it's a circular walkway. There's 3 V-shaped complexes. On this complex, on the far one, the furthest one away, you see 500, 1,000 pigeons lined all around the perimeter of it, like they standing side by side. Usually there are pigeons on every complex waiting for a piece of bread to be thrown down, and they all swoop down to get it. On this complex, there's one here, and one here. On the one closest to us, I see what looks like a small dog standing tall. It is a hawk. And all at once, all 500 plus pigeons fly straight up. They don't fly this way, they fly whoop, straight up. And you see that hawk take off like Superman. The pigeons fly this way, the hawk flies this way. A literal explosion, boom, of feathers in the air. And you see the pigeon fall, and the hawk land on top of it. And the hawk would literally pin it down and pluck it. It would pluck its feathers out and hold it down and gut it and eat it alive. Like, I'd never seen anything that vicious before. One time it got one close to pill line, and literally as I'm standing in pill line, I'm 20 to 30 foot away from this thing, making eye contact with it. And I mean, it's a big bird, man. I hadn't seen a bird that size before. Now, something that would happen that's unique. Each of these complexes, I said there's 4 units in each of these V-shaped complexes, okay? If you're on the bottom floor, you enter from the ground level. To enter the top 2 complexes, you don't enter the first floor, then walk through the stairs of that pod. No. There is an exterior set of stairs that lead you to your unit. And it is fenced in so nobody can fall off or be thrown off from the 3rd floor up, so that it's caged in. Every once in a while, a hawk would chase a pigeon into that caged-in stairwell and get trapped and get stuck in there. Well, you can't walk out when there's a hawk about. I mean, it'll tear you to pieces. And so basically, you'd be stuck in your building, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, while it flapped itself into exhaustion to near death, at which point somebody'd come in with a blanket, throw it over it, and take it out of there. And that's something that happened a good number of times. Something else, see, of the 3 complexes, I was on the far one. The first one I was in, the wall I was in, when I went to the drug unit, I just went down a floor. But anyway, the wall I had faced the rec yard. I was lucky. I had one of the rooms, there's only one wall of one complex that faces the rec yard, which allowed me to see a good many fights when it was happening. People be like, look at the window, something's going down. And you could just, you could see off, there was the camp. See, it's the medium, the low, which are both have double fenced in razor wire. Then there's the camp. The campers aren't fenced in. They ride around in golf carts out there. They even have a CDL program. They let them drive 18-wheelers. Well, you could see deer. Even saw a bear or two out there. And the camp has a giant farm. I mean, you see it. You see all the stuff growing out there. I mean, it's a huge farm that they have to provide food, the vegetables for the medium security, and for the low security, and for the camp, to provide vegetables as much as they could to reduce cost for the prison. But anyway, standing there, they have traps set up, and somehow a skunk would find its way onto the compound at the medium at least once a month, and you'd see it make its rounds. You'd see it make its rounds around different places on the yard, and it would get caught in this trap that they had set up for it occasionally. Now, they would send this man. He was a short black man, hateful, mean little man, who'd been in prison, I heard, for over 30, 40 years. Hateful, mean little man. Always looked angry. I don't know if he's angry because he's short or because, he ain't got none in 30 years, but he's just hateful and angry. And they'd send him out there to go get the skunk. And something I did not know, which I heard from them, I'm assuming it's true because it's what he did, was he would walk up to the skunk in its cage, throw a blanket over the cage, and then carry it to the gate, in which the guard would take it from there. I heard from him, not from him, but from other people, that when you put the blanket over the cage skunk, that it keeps them from spraying you. Something that if they can't see you, won't spray you. The next story is interesting, which I've talked about a little bit before. Was at the low security, they had cats. There was a female cat there, and it had been like the compound mascot. Everybody loved it. They'd come out there and they'd pet it. And 2 male cats made their way. I don't know if it was an eat or what, but they came up there and looked at the window one day, saw this. I was in Carolina Hall at Petersburg Low, and I looked up from the 2nd floor window, and that male cat was on top of that female cat, just getting it. Well, it popped out some kittens. You had these little cute kittens running around the compound. Everybody loved it. It wasn't hurting anybody, and people would feed them, and they were sweet. They were nice. But anyway, I believe it was, I heard, I'm not sure who exactly was to blame, but the new AW or something, did not like the cats, and they got rid of the cats, which I didn't like how they got rid of them either, but I mean, figure put them in a box or something. They got a trash can and went around scooping up the kittens and the cats and putting them all in this trash can to get rid of them. That just, I don't know, it didn't sit well with me. And there was, other interesting stuff. That was the majority of the low. There wasn't as much stuff going on, but at the medium, something weird that would happen. Okay, being federal prison, you get a lot of foreign inmates. It's not just like state prison, where you got the amigos that are one unit. There are so many people from South America that the Mexicans are one car. They're one group. Their Paisas and Sureños are the only 2 Mexicans that were allowed to walk at Petersburg Medium. If you're anything else, you got checked in if you were Mexican. If you had gang tattoos or anything, they weren't having that. And I got some stories about that, about yard removals. The one group they did allow to have, they eradicated them. They got them off the yard. But anyway, at the same time, in a coordinated hit that was really impressive. It was really impressive, the thought and the strategy it went into. But anyway, South America. Puerto Rico. There were so many Puerto Ricans. The Puerto Ricans were one group. The Puerto Ricans that were just, regular guys who were from Puerto Rico got in trouble. And then there was the Puerto Ricans that were Latin Kings. The Latin Kings, they're separate units. I was actually roommates with the Puerto Rican, the Boricua, I think is what, how you say it. I'm probably saying it wrong. Shot caller. He was a black fella with a bald head. His nickname was Blackie. Didn't speak a word of English. And it was interesting being in cell. It was when I first got to the medium security, and he'd just gotten out of the hole, so he ended up in the 4-man cell I was in. Funny dude, liked to cut up. He fight a little bit. He fight, stomped the guy out, broke his jaw. But anyway, that's another group. And then you have the rest of South America, like just Colombia, Brazil, all that. That's one unit. A lot of the guys from South America, I don't know if they lived in like some type of tribal place or what they had going on, but every 6 to 9 months you'd hear about one of these guys setting some type of trap and catching a pigeon and trying to cook it in the unit, in the microwave, stinking the unit up and getting in trouble, getting sent to the hole. Yeah, that was something that actually happened. And there was another guy they called just call him Birdman. Birdman, I mean, self-explanatory. These birds would circle around him like he was the Pied Piper. He'd have, no joke, not an exaggeration, 100+ birds in a circle around him. Sometimes he'd hold his arms out and he'd have about 4 on each arm and 1 on top of his head, just out there smiling, messing with the birds. You know those carrier pigeons that you can see them like from one place, they'll fly back across the country. Well, one of them found its way to Petersburg Medium, had its foot tagged, and it was some type of special. It's prettier than the rest. You tell it was some type of special type pigeon, and it just never left. It just found its way there in its little bird heaven and stayed there. And most people, treated animals really, really good. There was one incident of somebody stomping and killing a pigeon, which was no good, caused a fight to happen. Leave that another story. But for the most part, people treated the animals there really good. And it was a wild and unique thing, because you have to imagine waking up to go to breakfast at 7 a.m., first thing in the morning, and there are 500 to 1,000 pigeons flying around in a circle around this yard. And they're pooping when they're flying, and it's little bombs are just landing, boop, 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 all across the place. The compound workers, half their day wasn't as much picking up trash, raking leaves, whatever they were doing to make the compound look good. They had push mowers. They weren't gas operated. They push. But it was scraping up bird poop. And if you got in trouble and they didn't write you a shot. See, if you get in trouble, they write you what's called an institutional charge. It's called a shot. If you've watched Orange is the New Black, you've heard the term shot. So if you get in trouble, sometimes they'll give you an option to get extra duty. Now, what extra duty means is you're going to do some grunt work, and they're not going to take away your phone, computer, or email, or MP3 player. That's a new one they started doing, or visits. You'd have to go out there, and they might give you 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, and you have to complete so many hours of extra duty by so much time, and they'll let the shot go. That would require you go out there with a big old scrub brush and scrub off poop off the sidewalk. And there was a lot of poop. It was a lot. I mean, I can't even tell you. And I'll tell you something else. Them turkey vultures, I'd never seen as many of them, but they would circle the yard. Those big birds that have that huge wingspan, circle that yard. I mean, I would run 4 miles as soon as I woke up at 7 a.m., then 4 miles after I ate lunch every day. I was running 8 miles a day for probably about 2 years. I did that. Nothing fast, just anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes a mile. Just slow job, but consistent. Before I started doing the burpees, I switched to that. But these birds, I jogging, I was looking up nervous. I mean, these birds were big enough, looks like they try to come attack you or something, And you see them walk. They'd land whenever we were all locked down. You could see them at the window. But some of these predatory birds, I don't know the difference. I mean, I heard people name them hawk, eagle, falcon, but you saw a huge number of them. I mean, you got to look. I mean, that's like an open buffet for them. Wherever there's an animal that, another animal eats that is its food, you're going to see something like that. And it made for some interesting stuff. And it's kind of a weird analogy when you really consider it, okay? Because prison, people act like animals. So you got people that were like pigeons, you got people that were like hawks. And you got people that were all kinds of stuff in between. Just, I don't know what the in between bird would be, but people just trying to get by. But yeah, people who tried to extort people, take advantage of people, run game, everything else. And then you had the people that get victimized. So it's kind of like a weird little analogy type of thing, looking at it like that. But anyway, this was a weird factor I have to mention in here because it was such a huge part of life at the medium security, these birds. Like, I can't explain it. It was a thing. It was a huge thing. And the Birdman would be out there 2 hours every morning with these birds. As soon as you walk out the wreck, the first little area before it opens up the yard, which is probably like a 50 by 100-foot area, he'd be out there and he'd have like a 30-foot diameter of birds encircling him. It was like something you can't even imagine. And just hanging out on his arms and everything. There was also somebody who made friends with the squirrel, who had that squirrel where would mess with him, where it'd eat food out of his hands and stuff. It was some pretty wild stuff like that. But this is something, I figured I'd mention because, like I said, it was a huge thing. Every morning, I had to deal with these birds pooping. And can't tell you can't be at Petersburg Medium and not get pooped on a large number of times if you go to breakfast. At breakfast, that's when they were out big time. They'd come back at dinner and they'd be back out then, but at breakfast, that's when it was on. And every once in a while, it was always the same story with the hawks and the pigeons though. The three complexes, all the pigeons would be on one building and the hawk would either be on the far one or the one next to it, and they just sit in a stare off, just looking at each other. And it would just wait there patiently. It would never rush it. It would let them choose when it was going to pick one of them. And the pigeons would take off straight up, and that hawk or falcon, whatever it was, whoom, just itch. Man, it was never seen anything like that before. So it was neat to me, But anyway, if you liked the video, if you think I earned it, press the like button. If not, 17 minutes, 10 seconds of your life in which you can never get back. For that, I do truly apologize, but I hope you like this one. Y'all have a good one.